I cut all these pieces using settings that everybody else says work. They don't. Let me save you a bunch of wood and a bunch of frustration. If your inlays don't sit properly, won't fit properly, won't go in, glue up flush, it's not your machine. Your machine isn't broken. You're getting the wrong settings. It's usually how Vee Carve inlay is explained. Today, I'm actually going to show you what controls fit. No formulas, no guessing, no myths. Let's get started. Alright, so here's the advice most people give you. If it doesn't fit, change the start depth or change the overall max depth. That sounds logical, but here's the reality. Your software will not cut past those vectors. It doesn't care how deep you go or any of that. It will not cut past those vectors. So if the male and the female are mirrored copies, the maximum width is exactly the same no matter how deep you're cut. It doesn't matter. Straight up. Depth controls height. It does not control fit. If the male won't start, it's too wide. It's too wide at the contact points. What controls width? Offset. Let me show you. So before we go on, I want to show you this piece of cardboard. This is a simulated female Vee Carve inlay. This is a 15-degree angle, simulated 0.25 deep. Here is the male, same thing. 0.25 deep, as you can see, exactly the same depth. It's just the male that you would have carved out. Now on this side, I've drawn some lines. Those lines represent inward offsets. There is no offset on the first line. Now because everything is held in by the vectors, the machine will not go beyond the vectors, the top of the male is exactly the same size as the female. It's not going to go in. Here's where the offset comes in. If we offset inward 0.01, this is simulated, obviously that's way more than 0.01, but if we came in 0.01, which is the first line, watch what happens. I can now slide this piece, the male, into the female. So let's go a little further to 0.02. At 0.02, it goes in even deeper, seats closer to the bottom. Well, that's too big of a glue gap for me, so let's go to 0.3 and see what happens. And you guessed it, as you get down there, it leaves you the perfect glue gap. It's seated perfectly along each side. I'll go over that once more just so that it sinks in. Offset controls fit. So inward offset 0.1, 0.2, 0.3. Let's go into Carveco. We'll take a minute or two and I'll show you how to do this in Carveco quick. So to begin, we're going to start with the female. This is the female that we have. Now, to generate the male, you have to mirror it. You have to reverse it. So select the female, go over to the mirror tool, select that. Let's slide this back a little bit so that you can see what's happening. We're going to go over here to a cross model and we're going to select that. Now, as you can see, we have an exact opposite of the female. That's the easy part. So let's zoom into this male here. Now that we have it mirrored, we have our male. Now we need to do the offset. Let's close out the mirror tool. We're going to select the male. We're going to come over here to the offset tool down here on the bottom. All right, and we're going to offset. My sweet spot is 0.02 roughly. Again, you may want to go larger or smaller with this offset. I would do a bunch of tests before I went to my main piece. I might do 0.01, 0.02, 0.03, 0.015, 0.025 until you get the fit that you're looking for. In any case, I'm going to choose 0.02. We're going to inward offset left, sharp corners, and I like to delete the original vectors when I do this because it takes away the confusion. So deleting the original vectors. So what's going to happen, I'm going to zoom way in because this is such a small offset, you won't see it. So I'll click offset. Now if you pay attention to that dot right there and that line, you'll see that that distance decreases. There. So we've just offset this thing inward 0.02. One more thing to point out. The step down on the V bit is 0.125, and I do that to keep the stress low on the bit, and it gives a cleaner cutout. So if we're going to make a toolpath for this quickly, just so you can see how we do this to generate the male as a Vee Carve, You need to put a frame around it. It doesn't matter what the shape of the frame is, but a square makes the most sense on this thing. Create the square. I like to click off of everything and then go back to it. We're going to activate the square and the backwards T by pushing Shift and click on it. Now, another way that you can do this in this simple design is to left click and drag across everything, and there you have it. Go up to Vee Carve, go down through, limit tool depth. As I said, the finish depth on the male will be exactly the same on the female as it is the male to avoid confusion. The carving tool is our 15-degree V right here. We'll select that. We'll continue down and we'll select an 1/8 inch end mill for a roughing tool. Let's define the material at 0.75 just for giggles. Let's call this whatever that is, and we'll calculate now. Let's slide this over, and just for the heck of it, I will simulate this. Right click, simulate, and that way I can show you that you do indeed have a male. As you can see, once you take away this material, you have a male that is standing proud. In this programming, I can't speak for other softwares, but same process. Mirror the male, offset the male inward, generate a male Vee Carve. Let's go back out to the shop. Okay, so with a straight pointed bit like this one, if you can see it, this is a 15-degree V bit, obviously. This is what we programmed with. Fit is controlled by offset. It's not finish depth. It's not start depth. Offset controls the clearance. Depth controls how much material exists. It's two different jobs. Here's the simplest way that I can actually explain this. Other than the cardboard, here's your female. If you remember this, you'll be good. Surface the board on the female. You're going to go 0.25 deep. You're going to do a Vee Carve. That's it. Female's done. Set her aside. Now the male plugs. Surface the board. Surface both boards. I said that just a second ago. If they're not dead flat, you're going to have variances and variations in the V-bit, and things are not going to line up correctly. It's very important to surface your boards. So you have the female vectors. Copy paste as we did in there. Mirror the male vectors. Start depth is 0. Remember, start depth is 0 on both the male and the female. We don't want to complicate this with crazy start depths that don't work anyway. Start depth is 0. Max finish depth, 0.25. Again, keep it the same as the female to avoid the confusion. It doesn't matter that this thing is chewing away 0.25 inches because the bottom stock that's remaining is junk anyway. So just cut off the 0.25 to save the confusion. Same vectors, mirrored. Start depth 0, finish max depth 0.25. Inward offset, that's going to be up to you, but I would say 0.25 to 0.3 is probably the sweet spot. Offset it inward, delete the vectors so that you don't get confused as to which ones are which when you're doing your offset. And remember that angle controls everything. Even though the male is cut to the same depth, it doesn't bottom out. It wedges first. I'll show you again. It wedges first. Like so. The walls touch before the bottom touches, unless you've offset in too much, which that's almost what this 0.35 has done. It's almost gone in too much. So the object is to offset in just enough to get this male plug to seat to the desired gap that you're looking for on the bottom. If it's a decorative piece, 0.3 is perfect. Well, if it's a cutting board, 0.3 in this case would be perfect to me. I'm hoping you can see that. It's just enough glue gap that the glue will fill that void and you won't have a hollow in the bottom. So even though the male cut depth is the same, it doesn't bottom out because we offset in only enough to allow it to seat to the depth we're looking for. It's geometry, not math, that controls everything. So your start depths and you're changing your start depth and all of that, forget everything you've been taught before this, and just remember, offset the male inward after you mirror it. This works on real machines with real wood without all of the confusion. Same bit, same vectors, reverse the male. And I know I keep saying this over and over again, but I want to get it out there as simply as possible. Female 0.25, male 0.25, same vectors, mirror the male, cut them out, and you'll be golden. I'm going to put the link to this V-bit down in the description below. I sure hope this video is going to help somebody out there who's struggling to do this. It's really not that difficult once you understand the offset theory. If you've gotten any value out of this video, please remember to like and subscribe. It helps the channel grow. And as always, I'll catch you on the next one.